This is The Wilderness and the Wellspring, a podcast about the difficult times when you want to give up on your creative pursuits and the beauty of the act of creation. I'm your host, Jeff Lunt. This is episode 13, Resilience. This past week I had occasion to reflect on long-term projects. It seems that most of the things I work on fall into that category. I do have one game called DVMO that you can play in your browser. It's just got one level. It's more of a beta than anything. But other than that one, which took me a few months, everything else I've worked on so far is, at least many, many months, usually over a year. Or it's something super tiny that I just crank out in a couple of days, and it might be so simple it might be like a text-based thing or something. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about resilience and what it takes to just show up every day and keep going when you don't want to, when you don't feel like it. Even many days, honestly, where you just really have kind of lost motivation, inward motivation work on it, on whatever your creative project is right now, except just to finish it. Many, many years ago, I knew someone who was a professional game developer, and I asked him, or what did I say? I said something like I was going to work really hard in school so that I could get a software development job in game programming, so that I could play the rest of my life, And the implication was that as soon as I get that job, I'll be happy, And this person I knew quickly, but politely told me that was not only wrong, it was kind of misguided, that it might lead me to a place where my expectations would be super high. And if I accomplished my goal, I'd find actually that the reality is a little harder. There are rewards and there are good times, of course, but there's a lot of just hard work days, and there's a lot of, going from really loving a game concept to maybe being a little done with it by the time you're actually finished. And that's part of the nature of doing big projects and stuff. So on the topic of resilience, I'm slowly making my way through the book Letters from Seneca. It's an ancient Greek guy who wrote letters to I don't even know. I should know who he's writing to. It's not even about who he's writing to. He wrote a bunch of letters about stoicism and building resilience within yourself and stuff. Anyway, I was reading one today, and he mentions, the wise person is self-sufficient. And he brings up this concept inside this letter over and over. And at first, I noticed that my interpretation of self-sufficient changed while I was reading it. I initially thought of financially self-sufficient, like independent, like, you've got a job and you can pay your bills and stuff. But toward the end of reading it, I took a different take on it, which is Seneca talks about someone who was a Stoic who had also lost his family and his wife to war, and yet, this person within himself was still enough. He was obviously sad about losing his family, but he was a complete person within himself, and gave him the strength to kind of go through life. And so I started thinking more about self-sufficiency and being comfortable in your own skin, and accepting of who you are and your limitations and all that. I just thought that was really interesting. It was kind of a helpful thing to read too, because I can remember actually feeling that way when I was younger, maybe in my teens up to my 20s or so. A handful, but a few distinct memories of really feeling content and knowing that I was feeling content, even when I had objectively a lot less going for me in my life. I think back on that sometimes. I think about, it makes me sad to think that I I was at least at one time content, at least for a while. And then, I don't know, I haven't felt that in a while, I gotta say. I think some stresses in life, normal types of things, nothing thankfully too crazy, but I think the stress is just getting to me, And it's been a while since I've felt content or sometimes even happy, A lot of times I feel just tired or stressed or sleepy. So, yeah, reading that letter from Seneca today, I hope I'm getting the title of the book right, but that was helpful. Yeah. Anyway, anyone out there listening? I've heard a lot of people in the last few years mention this book or other books about Stoicism over the years, and I finally decided to start reading a copy of one that I had. So I'd say if you're struggling with any kind of, I don't know, everything just seems really hard, and it seems like it's been that way for a long time, you might try that. You might try that book, not because I have anything to gain from it, but because it might help. That's it for this episode. This has been the Wilderness and the Wellspring podcast. You can find me on the service previously known as Twitter under the username @JeffLuntGames. You can also find me on Substack at wildernessandwellspring.substack.com. I want to thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next time.